It's tricky to separate the personal narrative in the poem with the larger discussion that's going on as well. So it's really important when we study the poetry of Sylvia Plath and Ted Hughes that we don't get caught up in the personal politics, but rather look at the bigger ideas. It's very apparent that these poems are personal, and that they are referencing Plath's attempt at suicide and then successful suicides. That's undisputable, but really what we have to do is push that to the side a little bit, understand it's part of their personal context, and look at the bigger issues that are being addressed. And I think that Sylvia Plath is writing a lot about a couple of things, but she expresses the frustration of women and their restriction from society, and so what she often will do is aim to shock and be very confronting in her ideas as a means of trying to awaken people to the realities, because people have been complaining, expressing, protesting, rebelling against the treatment of women for a long time, and nothing has. There have been small advances, but she perhaps feels that by shocking that will be a good way of making that statement. So this poem is about performativity, and it's looking really at this idea that women are objectified by men, and that it's like their purpose is to be viewed as an object and to be performed. And I'm clicking on things now that I shouldn't be. That's better. I just wanted to move my margin. So we're talking about performativity. What Plath is doing here is by calling the poem Lady Lazarus, she is subverting this Christian mythology, and it's meant to be Lazarus who rises from the dead, and and so Plath is taking control of that. She's subverting this notion that men have the power to be resurrected, and she's positioning Lady Lazarus to do the same. And I'm going to attempt to try and focus on this discourse, this discussion about the women's movement, gender equality, looking to women seeking freedom from oppression and suffering, rather than looking at her personal perspective. So this was written in the 1960s, and there had been moments during World War I and II and through periods like that where the men were away, and so women were able to enter the public sphere, and then when the war would finish they would return, and women would be pushed back into their domestic style roles. And I think that we can see that there is a frustration being expressed here in that perspective. It's interesting to look at the poem as well, and so here we have tetrets, 3-line stanzas, which is different to some of the other poems she's written, but we've certainly got this confessional poetry going on. I've done it again. 1 year in every 10 I manage it. So she's basically saying that every decade or so there is an opportunity for freedom, but then that's taken away. This is something that Plath uses a lot to this meiosis. She understates her suicide attempts. If we look at that, I've already moved into talking about the personal. I can't help myself. Okay, so a sort of walking miracle. My skin as bright as a Nazi lampshade, my right foot a paperweight, my face a featureless fine Jew linen. Peel off the napkin, O my enemy, do I terrify. So I think if we're looking at this as these 4 stanzas, they're quite confronting in the sense that she's making references to the Holocaust, saying her skin has been used as a decoration. But if you peel all that off, what lies beneath? Is it terrifying to men to think of women as something other than objects of beauty? She's talking about the stagnation that comes with there'll be moments of progress and then that's taken away. My face a featureless fine dew linen. Okay, and we have these references to the cloak that was wrapped around Lazarus, and it also is sort of associating the roles of roles of women with the things that are domestic. So there's a real association with suffering evident in these lines. And then we have this rhetorical question: do I terrify? And is she shocking? And then she presents this really strong image of the face with all the skin ripped off. So we're getting rid of that facade of beauty to really see what lies beneath. And it's very confronting. Soon the flesh the grave cave ate will be at home on me, and I a smiling woman. I love that little metaphor of death being the grave cave. I think it's just it's very amusing. It's very playful. Let's keep moving on. I'm only 30, and like the cat, I have 9 times to die. So we can look at that and say this simile is saying that women are resilient and resourceful and will continue in this struggle of theirs. This is number 3. What a trash to annihilate each decade. So we've got some really interesting and powerful words going. What a million filaments the peanut crunching crowd shoves in to see. So here she starts talking about the superficial nature of the public, who are caught up in the scandal and the gossip of all things. She calls them the peanut crunching crowd. So Plath is displeased with and critical of the public and their values and attitudes. And Hughes uses this as well in his poetry to say the same. So one thing that does unite Plath and Hughes is this idea that they are very critical of the public and the values of society, the idea, the ideas running around in society, and but they're just looking through different lenses. Plath obviously looking at the sort of performance, the voyeuristic sort of nature of the crowd, and that the public seem to enjoy the suffering of others. They get a lot of pleasure from this, and it really does present women as a commodity. They're objectified. She's talking here about what a million filaments that she has been broken down into a whole range of insignificant cells, rather being seen as the whole. People shove in to see them unwrap me hand and foot. So, it's about being exposed and that performativity notion that women are there to entertain and to pleasure. Okay, and that the idea is that women are the commodities of men. The big strip tease. So here, this metaphor really does sort of explore this idea of others finding gratification and pleasure in the suffering of people. So this Lazarus, who has the cloth wrapped around him, this idea has been sexualized. So, that Lady Lazarus' body is being revealed and that she is powerless to stop that. She's at the mercy of the patriarchy. Gentlemen, ladies, these are my hands, my knees. I may be skin and bone, nevertheless, I am the same identical woman. The first time it happened, I was 10. It was an accident. So, she's really looking at this idea that there is more to her than just her physicality, and that women need to be appreciated for things other than their beauty, because they are far more complex than that. The second time, I meant to last it out and not come back at all. I rocked shut as a seashell. And that's a really nice image through this simile, that it was a place of security for women, that they were able to find comfort and also a place of solace in their freedom. They had to call and pick the worms off me like sticky pearls. So here she's saying that they had to be dragged back into their roles of domesticity, and this worms connotates this idea of decay, and it's like there's stagnation, that one foot is firmly fixed to the ground, so there's no movement, no forward movement, and it's causing death and decay. Dying is an art, like everything else. So here in her poem, I think her poetry is the art, and poetry is the means by which she is able to convey her ideas. It's an art form that allows for this expression, and so she looks at it through the lens of dying, because she knows she's going to be resurrected like Lazarus. I do it exceptionally well. I do it so it feels like hell. I do it so it feels real. I guess you could say I have a call. It's easy enough to do it in a cell. It's easy enough to do it and stay put. It's the theatrical comeback in broad day to the same place, the same face, the same brute, amused shout. So here, I think, is the interesting line that it's the theatrical comeback in the broad daylight. So that is referring to Lazarus' the resurrection, which occurred in the day, and it's seen as a miracle. They cry out it's a miracle, but it's really, she's talking about her art, and that their plight is looking at moving beyond being objects of desire and this notion of performativity into a place of freedom, and that's really where she's looking to be, or pushing the movement. A miracle is the amused shout that knocks me out. There is a charge for the eyeing of my scars. There is a charge for the hearing of my heart. It really goes. So here, that we're looking at this notion that there is suffering, and that there is a price to pay for that. And there is a charge, a very large charge, for a word or a touch or a bit of blood or a piece of my hair or my clothes. Okay, so now we're getting into the blood imagery that we're seeing in the other poems, and references to we've had bones and now we've got hair. That's definitely looking at the Holocaust imagery as well. The remnants of anything that was of any value was taken, and that's what she's making reference to there. Okay, and she says, "So, Herr Doctor, so, Herr Enemy, I am your opus, I am your work of art, I am your valuable, the pure gold baby that melts to a shriek. I turn and burn." So here we have this sense of suffering, eternal suffering. Do not think I underestimate your great concern. Ash, ash, you poke and stir, flesh, bone, there is nothing there. A cake of soap, a wedding ring, a gold filling. Hair God, hair Lucifer, beware, beware. Out of the ash I rise with my red hair, and I eat men like air. So these last stanzas are looking at, there's a mythological allusion to the phoenix rising out of the ashes, being reborn, and this is this notion of freedom and power that is being cast as a warning. So we have all these air sounds occurring in this section, which really does increase the pace, the cadence of the poem. So it is leading to this final, really powerful statement here of the outcome of the rising of Lady Lazarus. So we've got this mythical allusion. She also makes reference here, she's warning all men, from the best to the worst, to beware, because out of the ash I rise with my red hair. So red is a colour that's very heavily referenced in Hughes and Plath's poems. It has all these connotations fixed to it, and then this ultimate powerful line that I eat men like air. That that there's such a powerful image that comes from there. So that the idea is that once she achieves her freedom, she will have so much power. And you have that notion of moving away from the gravity, the weight of everything, and this notion of ascendance. So rising up out of the ashes in this case, and that's a really strong and consistent image in her poetry. I've put down here she acknowledges society is to blame for the rumours and scandals surrounding her, but also, about they're responsible for the construction of the female identity, and this is what she's fighting to overcome.